Do
Hello,
what? Hi.
everybody. Welcome to Ramblemancy, where we have spooky vibes only. Also, the captions are here to call us out for
Mm.
anything that we may or may not have said before going live.
I
Anyway,
really I really hope that they didn't pick up the absolutely horrific like Phantom of the Opera pun that I made earlier. Like,
it does not go back that far, John. That was like 10
okay,
minutes ago.
good,
Anyway, hi,
good.
everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Ramblemancy, where we have spooky vibes only, except for John. That's a mystery. Um, so, fair enough. You know what? Fair enough. Um,
I got skeleton wings on my hoodie, baby.
well, I have a
Spooky, but
skeleton, so there.
Hmm.
Anyway,
I don't.
oh, I'm sorry, Freeman. That was
there
insensitive
we
of me.
go. All right,
Anyway, we have got some
spooky vibes
announcements
only.
and reminders, probably. I'm just going to talk until and see what happens. And one way or another, you will know about things. What things? Let's find out together. So, first of all, tomorrow on this very channel at 6 p.m. Pacific time, the fourth and final episode of Republic City Rumble will be here on this very channel. I said that already, but just to make sure that you know, we will be doing that right here, and I'm very excited for that. Just to see how all this plays out and what our pro bending heroes will do. Um, that's tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Of course, the latest episode of Infinite Horizon just went up on YouTube today, so you can go catch that right now on YouTube. Don't do it right now. Don't do it right now, because there's this, and unless you're really good at multitasking.
Hmm.
I've never understood people who are able to listen to like a video and a stream or multiple streams at once. I would go insane.
No,
Like, I would
absolutely
lose
not.
it. I would crack.
Um, but
I
yeah,
envy your power.
if you
People who can
missed
do that.
if you missed the latest episode, it is currently on YouTube. It will be released on podcast Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So, you can find that anywhere pods are cast. Let's see. What else? Of course, Infinite Horizon will be back on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, right here on this very channel, where we will pick up exactly where we left off at the end of the last episode. I think that's pretty much everything. I think that's like all of our stuff, right? That's everything we've got going on.
I do
Oh,
believe so. There is also
yeah.
a fun little orange bar beneath our faces right now, and that is this month's donation goal. If we reach, as with last month, $250, these two they're above me on Twitch. Not I'm arranged differently on my own screen. These two lovely people above me will play the spooky survival horror game, The Forest, in a Discord community night. And having seen them play it before, let me tell you, it is a wild experience. It alternates between "Hello, we are lumberjacks" and "Oh God, eldritch horror" at the drop of a hat.
Oh God, I'm thirsty. I haven't eaten in 3 days. I'm gonna die. That's a nice tree. Let me cut it down.
Yep.
That's a nice tree. I'm gonna cut it down.
Here's a taste for you. With that said, the previous month's goal was also reached, and we will be doing not tomorrow night because tomorrow's Republic City Rumble, but the week after that, next Saturday, John will be hosting a Jackbox party game night in the Discord. So, so that will be happening there.
Yeah, keep an eye on our Discord for announcements when that's happening. I'll put it in the weekly announcements this weekend or on Monday, whenever those go out, and then I will of course yell loudly when it is happening Saturday evening. So
yes, of course. And Amethyst Cat Lady says, is it a wild experience or a feral experience? And the answer is yes.
yeah.
Which chord? I think you know which one.
Mm-hmm.
Which chord?
I think you know which one. I think that's everything, which is weird to say because even though it's like not that different from everything else we've had going on, it does feel like less than we normally do, and
Oh,
I don't know. It is what it is.
Anytime we reach anytime we reach that phase of like kind of coasting on a project, like where we've done most of the legwork of getting it done, and now it's just keeping it going, like shoveling coal into the engine until we arrive at the train station.
Yeah.
Like it always just feels like, wow, what do we what do we do with ourselves?
Time is fake. Fake is time. Uh, Nothing is real. Correct, chat. Correct. Real is nothing. We're all
We're all
dying. This has
dying.
gone in a direction that I was not wholly prepared for. But I
All
have.
right,
But
fucking Yoda's in the chat
so
tonight
so
too.
so here's I learned my lesson from our last Ramblemancy. So John, what do you got for us tonight?
Actually, I was thinking of a question earlier tonight,
Mm.
so I am prepared for you for once in my goddamn life.
Hey, listen,
Uh,
I wasn't only trying to throw you under the bus. My main goal was making it feel like we actually started the episode, unlike last time. So,
yeah. Um, so also, Giga, it's that crime against words, usual comma the, and then just nothing else. It's actually, the more I look at it, the more I love that. Anyway, I was thinking about a question earlier, which is that, we all have a substantial amount of video game experience, and a lot of times the people who hang around here do as well. Um, Either around them or playing them ourselves. And I was thinking earlier about games that I would want to see remade and games that I wouldn't want to see remade.
interesting.
And so I suppose that's my question, and I can start to answer it while y'all think. But what is a game that you think it would be great if there was a remake of? Video games, you say, yeah. What video game would you love to see remade, and what video game do you not want to see remade?
Hmm.
For me, um, like game that I don't want to see remade, frankly, is Super Metroid. And with Metroid Dread having come out recently, like I think it's an amazing game, and it's such a love letter to so many aspects of like the 2D side scrolling, um, like Metroidvania genre, and like gorgeous graphics and all the pretty new mechanics. But I think like because Super Metroid is such an iconic entry in that series, and of course when they remade it, they would remove a lot of the things that make Super Metroid runs kind of the way they are, because a lot of the sequence breaking that happens in Super Metroid is a little bit because the game is held together with duct tape and prayers, in the way that many SNES games are, because there's only so much room, and the systems that those run on are only so sophisticated. So like if you update that game to like modern graphics and functionality, then like you remove a number of glitches that have become like kind of part of the normal play pattern of a lot of like speedrunners or people who still like return to that game. So that's one that I think I don't, unless they did just like an entirely transformational remake of it, like it's now like a first person shooter or something like that in the vein of the Prime series. But
Yeah. um.
that's my I don't want to see it remade, but somebody else can take a turn talking now because I've been talking for a hot minute.
I do like Amethyst Kelly. Unpopular opinion: we don't need more Pokemon game remakes. There, I said it. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Mhm.
You know what? I do have an answer to this question. And it is I know that there are a lot of people who like these games who do not will not share my opinion because they are of the opinion that like if anything is done to these games or whatever, uh, it will automatically ruin them. And I'm like, okay, but that's because you can't play these games with your nostalgia goggles on. Um, anyway, uh, I would like to see a remake of like a remake of all the entirety of the Jedi Knight series, including Dark Forces. Um, Fun fact: Jedi Knight was, uh, okay, technically because they did the weird like numbering system with those. Because there was Dark Forces, then there was Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, then there was Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, and then there was Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, and then there was Jedi Academy. Um, I would love to see a whole ass remake of all of those games because they span like multiple generations of games and game design, which is, I think, incredible. And it'd be fun to see them all in kind of like remade in sort of the same generation, like a modern gen game. Fun fact: Jedi Knight, Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight was the very first video game that I ever played at the tender age of 6 years old. So yeah,
Oh, hell yeah.
one of my dad's good friends got it for me for Christmas, and yeah, that was the
That's so
beginning.
cool.
That was the beginning of a long journey that still continues, and it will continue on into the depths of time and the boundless fields of oblivion. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, that's
On and on the wheel turns into infinity.
yeah. So anyway, that's my answer. Into the
Mhm.
pit of hell. All right.
Which level though?
Mm, all of the
Which
levels.
level?
Video games transcend all levels. I'm gonna stop talking.
Is
Mhm.
it,
Geek Out says, "What is the worst game you played with the best concept? Because that would be the best remake, like movies that had a good idea but bad delivery." Oh God. Somebody actually
Uh,
did literally ask me what is the worst game I've ever played the other day, and I genuinely didn't, or asked what is a game that I hated. I genuinely don't know that I have an answer to that question. Like, because there's so
Interesting.
many different, like there's so many different. I feel like there's no like objective scale to base that on. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because there's like movie tie-in games which were always like horrible, but like they were
Because it was
fun.
almost always a studio that just like grabbed the
Yeah,
rights to it and then like smashed out a game in a weekend.
looking at you, EA.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I played one of those on stream this week with Matthew. Like
oh yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah,
the
I was
Jurassic Park.
playing. Oh, and hold on, no,
That was fun.
I have to rant about this one real quick. The
Do it.
Jurassic Park game. So from an era of gaming a full 30 years ago in which I found notes written by my dad when he was playing through it on
Oh
the
my God. Can we stop
my
and take a
Whoa.
second to like recognize that we've reached a point in time where you can find where once you would find like books handed down by parents with their notes in the margins or whatever, now we're finding video games with that, and
Mhm.
that's weird. That's
um
fucking weird.
Jurassic Park is this game is like this weird combination of like a top-down like Metroidvania looking for dinosaur eggs and guns and stuff, and then you walk into buildings and all of a sudden it's like fucking Wolfenstein
Yeah, straight up
Doom
Doom shit.
like
Yeah.
first person, the clunkiest controls.
So
um
funny.
and you're hunting down like the ID cards of like all of the main characters of the series who never would have had ID cards, most of them, because they were visitors, but fine. And so some of these notes, I presume, is my dad having written down where they were and then where you took them to open the doors. Um, I think that there was a really interesting game concept here. And then the two people who programmed it programmed two different games independently of each other and then stapled them together.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Okay, actually, I don't know if this is an answer to Geekouts' question because I kind of go back and forth on this a little bit. Um, but did any of you ever play the Hobbit game from Sierra Entertainment?
No, I didn't.
That was such a good game.
No.
Like
Hmm.
it was an E-rated game, but it was so fun. Like, and the puzzles were hard. Like it was mostly puzzles. Like it was a 3D puzzle platformer kind of thing. The puzzles were hard because like I remember getting stuck on some of those for weeks. Granted, I was also like, well, I was like 12. I don't know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it was so good. I really liked that game. I think it was clunky a little, like obviously in the way that I think it was initially intended for like GameCube. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was like made for that and then ported to other stuff. But like, so it was a little clunky in the way that like GameCube games could be, right? I think that game But here's where I go back and forth, right? Is I don't think that game would actually ever would be good remade, right? Like, because I just don't think that you'd be able to, like, using a modern gen engine or whatever. Like, the tendency would be to like make it all like gritty and realistic in its aesthetic, but the thing that made it kind of cool was its cartoonish aesthetic. I don't know.
It's that meme that's like I want it's like I can't remember how it starts, but it's like I want games with shittier graphics paid by or made by people who are paid more to work less.
Mhm.
And no, I'm not kidding. Um and like that's the vibe.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay for it not to look like The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for games to not look
Oh
like
my
The
God.
Last of Us too.
I'm sorry. Geek out with a real answer. Cyberpunk 2077.
Hmm.
Hot take.
Pew,
But
pew, pew,
is that a
pew,
hot
pew.
take? I think that's maybe more of a lukewarm take. Or not even a lukewarm. That might be a pretty cold take. So, you know what? I'll give it to you.
I was thinking also Skyrim as well,
Mhm.
geek outs, but I think Skyrim's okay. Like Bethesda's got it is okay. They're good. I really want to play through it again with mods,
Mhm.
and that's how I feel like you can like change your gameplay a little bit is like adding the mods
Mhm.
to it a little
And
bit.
that specifically is why I didn't mention games like Morrowind or
Yeah.
Oblivion, because there are actual total conversion mods being made on an updated engine for those games. Like, granted, it's not like an official studio doing it, it's like a mod team, but like that doesn't mean a lot these days. Like, mod teams can do a lot of incredible shit.
Yeah, the modding community is so
Hmm.
cool.
Especially,
Just like
I just spilled.
oh,
I tried to talk while there was water going into my mouth, and that did
Hmm.
go
not
ahead.
go.
Yeah.
That went the predictable levels of not well.
Mhm.
So, sorry, I need to take a second.
Love it. Take a moment while we
This episode of Ramblemancy is brought to you by water. Drink it, but not at the same time you're talking.
Big
This
water.
episode of Ramblemancy is brought to you by drinking water. Learn how to fucking do it, you moron.
Oh man.
So,
This is my favorite bit that we've ever done, I think.
okay, so anyway, I fully don't remember what I was going to say. Continue.
Yeah.
We were talking about modding teams,
modding
and
teams.
the way that they are, in some cases, functionally equivalent to a studio, like a small studio of
Yeah.
devs and
Oh, I
things like
remember what I was
that.
going to say. Particularly the Elder Scrolls modding community, because like they've been around for a long ass time.
Yeah.
Like some of those people are back,
Hmm.
go all the way back to like the very first release of any kind of like editing tools that Bethesda released, which I believe were like the Morrowind ones, and like that's what almost that's almost 20 years ago. Holy shit. Morrowind came out in 2003.
Hmm.
That's almost 20
Ah,
years ago.
sweet, sweet
So like
time.
some of these people have been doing this shit for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Back in the olden days of modding Morrowind.
Wait.
Yeah.
Well, not important.
Kikatsu was saying, in response to talking about Cyberpunk, play Cloudpunk, which
Oh,
I think I've
no.
seen.
Geekouts, why are you doing this to me? 2002.
Oh.
Okay. Well,
Well, I mean,
Ooh, yike. I mean, here's the thing, like 2023 or no, 2024, Metroid will be 30, Super Metroid will be 30 years old, and I don't know how to handle that. I don't know how to handle that. So in a couple years, Super Metroid will be 30 years old, and I'm like, that game was
Yeah.
made the year after I was born, or released. It was probably being made the year that I was born. Anyway, Gigat said, play Cloudpunk. It's so good. You're a delivery driver in a Fifth Element New York City. It's cyberpunk, but absorbs. I've been playing too much Metroid. Avoids most of the gross tropes, and you can end the game with a happy ending. It's also possible to go sad. Not literally New York City, but yeah, that sounds really good. You've posted some screenshots of that around some of the discords that we frequent, and I am very interested. It looks like such a pretty game, and any I love the aesthetic of cyberpunk, but sometimes it gets very gritty for me, for my taste.
Oh,
Cyberpunk
are
sounds
you
interesting.
referring to the part where you just run up to like the third guy in a row and like with a katana and immediately decapitate him? Is that what you're talking about?
And everyone's so sad. Everyone's just so sad all the time. Everyone's lives are super miserable, and you're like, maybe this person, it's okay. Maybe they're kind of okay, and they're like, I'm okay, and you're like, great, and they're like, I'm really not. Fuck.
Hey, it's fine. There's a literal actual clown in Cyberpunk 2077. He has a
Wait,
grenade for a nose, but he's
I'm
fine.
sorry. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's got face McShooty vibes. Except don't shoot in the.
Yeah.
When in doubt, yeah, I don't know what goes there actually.
That'd be a rather explosive conflict.
Ah,
All right. Someone cut John's mic. Thank you, chat. Where I belong.
Well,
take a moment for that.
here we are. We're gonna sit here. We're gonna sit with this. Right now. We're gonna sit here with this while John ponders the question. Are you proud of yourself?
I'm just gonna celebrate down here out of sight.
Ah, welcome John's chair.
We actually do have a surprise guest tonight.
I do like the design of this chair you have here. It looks like it's quite breathable on the back, which I like. That's,
Yes, it prevents the dreaded sweaty back.
Ah, yes. I've got at least 3 of those.
Yeah. Personally, I keep mine downstairs where it's nice and cool and dry.
What?
Nope. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway,
Nice.
I'm coming back up. Okay. I'm going to need to confiscate your privileges. And I appreciate that we didn't say which privileges, just that you're going to.
them.
All of them.
You've lost them all, John.
Take my sword away, mute my mic, like.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Oh, I see the shipping community is going here. I think Chair has something going on with Shelf.
On the topic of video games, Nico says, if you could take the mechanics of one franchise and apply them to another, which ones would you choose and how would you call the new game you just created?
You know I'm just going to make a game of Metroidvania, right?
Let's see. I think... that's a good question. Let's make some weird Frankenstein games here.
Yeah. The next 30 minutes are just video game pitches night.
Yeah, it's just video game mashups. Let's go. Let's see. Well, first I would take Super Smash Brothers and do absolutely nothing with it because I hate that game. The second thing I would do is, let's see. I don't know. I genuinely had to like take a second and think about that because that's a really interesting question that I've never thought about this.
Okay, Geek Outs challenge. John, combine Animal Crossing and Metroidvania.
We were literally joking about this earlier today.
Like literally an hour and a half ago, we were sitting in a Discord server with some of our college friends. And I think the topic of conversation got confused somewhere between the new Animal Crossing New Horizons update and Metroid Dread. And someone was like, yeah, I heard they put fucking killer robots into Animal Crossing New Horizons with the update. And that's really shocking some of the community. And so we just followed the thread of what if they just Control-C, Control-V the Emmy from Metroid Dread, autonomous fucking needle stabbing death machines, and just put them straight into Animal Crossing New Horizons unedited.
Okay.
Actually, it's a survival horror crafting game now.
I have maybe an answer. I would love for there to be like if we're talking about mechanics here, um, I would love to have like the movement mechanics from the Arkham games, right? So like the grappling hook, glider, all that sort of shit. I would love to have that honestly in any game, but like
Hmm.
a game like a game that was very that was set in like a sprawling metropolis like Cyberpunk 2077. I
Hmm.
think that would fucking slap. Like
Yeah.
if they had like an actual parkour mechanic in Cyberpunk 2077, or like that could
Hmm.
be assisted with various like cybernetics, that like grappling hooks and like gliders, like that kind of shit, that would be incredible.
Can you imagine Cyberpunk 2077 with like a combination of like Mirror's Edge's parkour system and then like some of the Arkham stuff, like with
Mm-hmm.
the with you take the like cherry pick out of like Batman's like, platforming kit,
Mm-hmm.
and then you like also just throw it in there, and that's just shit that you can do, like a whole tree for it. And then imagine a night city that is built for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mirror's Edge was such a pretty game, the way that they did that, but also free running through
Hmm.
Night City. Mwah.
Hmm.
That'd be so
And
good.
like you kind of can a little bit with with the double jump upgrade that you can cybernetics that you can get in that game, but it's not the same. It's not like the same as having an actual dedicated system for it.
Yeah, you don't get that smoothness, that
Mm-mm.
flow of like of running across and through, like really feeling the pulse of the city as you're running through it.
Yeah. um
Hmm. Yeah, I guess it'd be kind of cool to have like an aspect of parkour or free running in Skyrim, actually, for when you're in like the urban environments and you're
and
like
then
playing a sneaky character.
to have those urban environments designed for it too. Like
Exactly.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
Ooh.
Um,
Mhm.
survival horror gameplay from Alien Isolation apply it to Jurassic Park, hiding from raptors, running from the T-Rex, all the while you are maneuvering like the classic Jurassic Park. Yeah, I could see that. That could be really really cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I would kind of be about that game. Like I've read all of the Jurassic Park books. I've seen all of the classic. I haven't seen any of the new movies, but I have seen all the classic movies. Because there was like a gap in the creation of Jurassic Park movies. Am I right about that? Like there were the original like set of them in like the 80s or 90s, and then the Chris Pratt ones came out.
Yes, huge gap.
Okay, huge
The
gap.
Chris Pratt
Cool.
ones started coming out like a few years ago, John.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that there weren't like mysteriously a few that had come out in like the 2000s and 2010s or some like early 2010s that I had missed somehow. So there
Highly
might have
doubt
been. Who knows? Make it more like the first book and make it a period piece because alternate reality. I'm still just sitting here thinking about, so like I'm still just sitting here thinking about Animal Crossing meets Metroidvania, and I think the honest answer I have is that anything that I create is just going to look like Terraria, because Terraria is like a little bit like a management game, but also it's like 2D like open world exploration, kind of not quite Metroidvania. Um, but like the interesting thing about something like Animal Crossing, I think you have to choose whether you're making a management game or a Metroidvania. Um, because I think the two are a little bit no, I don't know that they're incompatible. This is an interesting mashup to try and make. Um,
Hmm.
because I think the heart of like I'm trying to decide, would you make that game? Would you make an Animal Crossing like Stardew Valley kind of Metroidvania mashup? Would you make it top down like Stardew Valley is, or like Animal Crossing is, or would you go 2D side scrolling like Castlevania or Super Metroid or like the Metroid games are? Because I feel like if you're going to lean into the management aspects, it's kind of got to be top down, right?
um, not necessarily. When you talk about management, are you talking about specifically like resources, or are you talking more like
like the chores simulation aspect of it. Like you have a farm that you manage, or something along those lines. Maybe I don't know.
Then in that case, I would say probably because otherwise, what happens, and this happens in Terraria too, is you sort of run out of if the only plane that you have really that you can like create on is like this one, then
Mhm.
eventually you're gonna run out of room.
Yeah, and that's I think where I run into that. So I think I think it's got to be like top down or isometric. Um, I've accidentally created Hades, but with farming aspects. Dark Souls, New Horizons. Oh God.
Hmm. See, that's funny, John, because like it's this is always fascinating to me, right? Because like that game that you just described is something that you'd be like, that would be dope. And me, that sounds like a fucking nightmare. Like I always find that to be fascinating, right? Because like, yeah, I don't know. Like both stylistically in terms of the aesthetics and in terms of the gameplay, that all sounds like a nightmare to me. Um,
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think the game that has formed in my head to answer the original like prompt for this, the game that has formed in my head is more or less just like a a kind of yeah, it is kind of like Hades, in which you would have like a place that you consistently returned to on your routes out and through various areas in the world, and you managed things there. And then like when you had finished, doing whatever chores or talking to people or romancing or whatever other things you want to staple in here, then you head out with what you have gathered here or what you have done here, and whatever that's changed, whatever that's changed for your character. Now you for it, like you head back out into the Metroidvania like array of areas around it to find new things and discover new stuff that you can bring back now to continue improving the little farm that you've got going. And you kind of, it's basically, I feel like it's kind of like Stardew Valley if most of the gameplay was about going and fighting in the mines in Skull Cavern. I think is essentially what I've created. And then you just came back and that was most of what you did, is you went and did that, and then you came back and did stuff, and you went and did that, and then came back and did stuff. So
yeah,
it truly is just like a Hades clone, but with a Metroid skin over it.
yeah.
Hmm.
See, because I like aspects of what you're talking about, right? Like the because like I'm a bit and like anybody who has ever talked to me about video games, particularly in the last few years, will know that I am a really big fan of like open world survival crafting games. But I want those games to be, if I'm playing them, I want them to be like 3D explorable environments or whatever, because I like that exploration aspect and I like but furthermore, I also like there to be actual like stakes. So I like when there's some sort of threat or something, right? Um, in Empyrean, it's an opposing faction, right? A faction that is an enemy of yours will send uh, periodically will just start sending things to attack your base,
Mhm.
and that's something that you gotta deal with. And I like that mechanic, right? Because one problem that I have with a lot of those like open world survival crafting games is that like you're like, yeah, I'm spending all this time and like occasionally fighting some stuff, and I built a base. Then you build the base, and you're like, great, I built it.
Mhm.
Now what?
Now what?
And the forest is much like that as well. There's periodically there'll be raids. Quite often
Exactly.
there'll
Yeah.
be raids from the what are they, the cannibals
Yeah.
or
But
whatever.
I also, another thing that I really like in games like that is when there's like a sort of scavenging mechanic, right? Where you're like, so it's even better if it's a game that's sort of post-apocalyptic almost, because I like the idea, like that's a thing that I like in those games where it's not just about like felling trees and mining rocks or whatever, but also like going and scavenging shit. Like I like that aspect of games,
Mhm.
and yeah. Um I don't know. I just really like that.
Ditto, ditto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's room within the kind of game that I'm talking about here for it to lean like there's a lot of ways that it can lean. It can lean, I think, on the end of on the end of like survival crafting, or it can lean more on the end of like a Hades roguelike, or it can be like mostly about the man. Like there's a lot of different, I think, depending on how you lean into that and how you lean into which parts of the game, I think kind of change what you've got on your hands.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting mashup to consider, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so since we're talking about video games, I just think it's interesting, right? Because this is an interesting change that we saw in sort of like the the beginning of what I would call the like modern era of video games,
Mhm.
which is sort of was mostly took place in kind of like the early 2000s, right? Um, that's where there was like a definite paradigm shift in how things were like games were being developed and presented. Um,
Mhm.
and obviously there've been others since then, but like kind of the beginning of where of what brought us here. What I think is interesting is there was a time when like the way to tell stories in video games was through FPSs, right? Like that was like the way, right? Remember when FPS games, when first person shooters had like stories to them?
Yeah, like Halo Combat Evolved was like kind of the beginning of that era. Like there's other games that were around that time, I think, that you can also point to, but I
No,
think
I'm saying in that era is when we started losing that.
oh, okay.
When that started becoming less the
Mhm.
case.
Right.
Like when you start moving towards like the mid 2000s, that's when you start
Okay.
getting like the modern Call of Duty is basically, right?
Mhm.
Mid and late 2000s, you start getting what modern Call of Duty is, where like the single player campaign shrunk and shrunk and shrunk until at one point became non-existent. And it was purely like multiplayer run around shoot things and that's it. Um,
Yeah, which is really what people mostly enjoyed about the Modern Warfare entries to that series was the multiplayer. So like,
mhm.
you know,
Right. So like I'm not complaining about that per se, those games per se, because those games just sort of leaned into what was working for them, which makes sense. Um, I'm just it's to me what bothers me is the fact that everybody else followed them in the industry. Was like, well, that's what's working for them, so like let's just do that because that's what's. It's like okay, but that's what's working for them because that's what was good in their games. Like, that was the thing that people liked, and that's what was working in their games. That doesn't mean that that's what everybody wants from those games all of the time. And it's like,
Mm.
every game does not need to have a super robust like online competitive multiplayer aspect to it. It is totally fine for your game to not have that
yeah, and
thing.
like these days, I'm maybe slightly less so, but I don't know if there's been like a significant swing back in the other direction, right? But like, but these days, first person shooter is almost synonymous with online competitive multiplayer,
Mhm.
right? But the charts say so, Lucas. Yeah, I know. Got to listen to those charts. You're right. You're absolutely right. Did the first Modern Warfare have multiplayer? I honestly don't remember.
Yes, it did.
It did.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare did have multiplayer. It was very good. For what you had at the time, because I remember I played the shit out of it. The first Modern Warfare was the one with the really good sniper mission,
Yeah,
right?
the ghillie suit thing and like yeah.
Yeah. Love that mission. So cool. Yeah, that one had multiplayer that I really enjoyed, and that was a little bit broken because through some combinations of perks, you could just like one shot people through walls with sniper rifles, and it was very fun. Pissed people off to no end if you were good at it. And being in high school or middle school or whatever at the time and having an Xbox, I had the time and I got very good at it.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think, cause like yeah, there's a period of time where that was the first person shooters. That was sort of like the primary method of storytelling in a lot of games. I mean, they obviously there were like RPGs, and those do exist. Those did exist at the time for sure, but they weren't the ones that were sort of like in the foreground. And even those didn't look necessarily like modern RPGs. Those looked I don't know, they were very different. Like even the RPGs of the time sort of modeled the same kind. Like do you remember it's one of the entries in the Might and Magic series. God, what Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Do you remember that game?
Right.
That
I
game
think so.
was like an RPG, but the whole like the mechanically and gameplay wise, it was a first person shooter. It just so happened that you had a sword, but it was still a first person shooter. Level design, mechanics, like everything about that. Um,
Yeah. That's what everybody knew how to make. Like, and
yeah,
so they
yeah.
just went for it.
I don't know. I just think that's I like this kind of stuff. Like looking back at like the history of like where you can sort of start to we're far enough along in this that you can kind of start to trace like the trends and where those led us to like in today. And what I mean by that is like obviously they're like we were far enough along then too because there were already a couple generations of like video games by that point. But what I'm saying is or like at least a generation. But what I mostly mean is that we're like we personally have like us we have been alive long enough and plugged into that world to be able to like ourselves trace through like the you know uh those trends and see the way that things have changed over time.
Yeah. It's interesting to look back. Like it's interesting to look back at those kind of trends that we've seen throughout our lives. Like and how that's shaped storytelling. Like I do still feel like a lot of first person shooters are pretty much synonymous with like competitive online multiplayer. And then I think the other side of that is you can be a first person shooter, but you're like on the rails and it's like The Last of Us or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like single player or like two-player co-op, um, super story focused. And that's like the two camps I feel like that exist in the FPS world is either it's like you're playing me only for the multiplayer or you're playing me
Mhm.
only for the story. There's nothing
Yeah.
that like has like the modern warfare thing where it had like a pretty robust campaign and then also had pretty robust online multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of stuff that's like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Last of Us is third person, sorry. Uh Gears of War then.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Gears of War was one of those series that did that too. Like it started off as a
Huh.
mostly like I feel like the first Gears of War was it had multiplayer, but multiplayer was like just kind of there. And then like the later Gears of War games, it was like, okay, so there's this campaign intro that you can play and it's kind of cool and it's voice acted and stuff. But also here's the multiplayer and play that.
yeah.
Huh.
Like even like yeah, even fucking Mass Effect did that. Like Mass Effect eventually was like also here's a multiplayer now because that's what we have to do. So like I don't know. According to Lily, like the multiplayer for Mass Effect 3 was actually pretty good. I didn't enjoy it, but that's just me. I don't like
Hmm.
competitive multiplayer games anyway, so the only one I
Mhm.
have ever enjoyed was Star Wars Squadrons, and it's I'm not going to rant about it again, but like the TLDR about of it is that it's skill-based gameplay, which means that even if you have not poured hundreds of thousands of hours into grinding like the coolest and best items, you still have a chance of outflying or just being luckier than the other players. And that's incredible. We need a little bit of chaos
Mhm.
in our games or else like why are we playing them, right? Because if it's just numbers that are playing your games, then like you are not playing the game. You are
Right. And
For
you
sure.
are attending another job basically. You are the human input into a spreadsheet, a pretty looking spreadsheet.
wow. We've just roasted every MMO ever.
I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah.
In fact, we could stand to do it some more, I think.
Frankly,
Go
yes.
off.
I think one of the interesting things too, just about squadrons, is that it seems like it's skill based in a way that is not entirely insurmountable. Because at a certain point, if you put me against somebody who's in like high platinum or low diamond in League of Legends, I will lose that lane
Yeah.
every time, and the game will
Yep.
be over in 10 minutes. Like I will just die over
Yeah.
and over and over
Yeah.
again. They are
Meanwhile,
so much better than me that I will
Meanwhile,
lose.
me in low double digit rankings in Star Wars Squadrons goes up against somebody in like medium like triple digits, and like Yeah, chances are they'll outfly me most of the time, but like if I'm good enough and lucky enough, I can get a few of them off. So like
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. That's why I enjoyed it because it
Mhm.
also the fact that I just didn't have to interact with anybody, also top tier. Like like they are on my team, I don't have to talk to them.
It's so nice.
Yeah, it's great.
The worst thing about online multiplayer is the other players.
That's why in MMOs, when I'm playing MMOs, I play by myself.
Play solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I respect people's desire in MMOs to, if you're logging in and you have like an hour to play and you just want to knock out your dailies, knock out the daily dungeon, boom, 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 do your, as one of our friends is wont to say, I'm going to do my Space Wizard chores for their daily Destiny 2 like play sessions. If that's what you like, if that's what you're logging in for and you kind of want to
Mhm.
just knock that out in like an hour, like I totally respect your desire to rush through a dungeon. Maybe don't pug for it, or maybe when you advertise for the public group, pug, maybe make it clear that that's what you want. Because I absolutely hate it when like I'm a new player in an MMO or something, and I join like a dungeon running party that's just like, hey, we're doing this dungeon, and then they get mad at me for being too slow or not knowing the mechanics or not knowing where to stack to deal maximum damage to this group of monsters or this boss. I'm like, oh, you're so far ahead of me. I'm experiencing absolutely none of this. I'm
Well, that's the
learning
thing,
nothing.
right? Like, I feel like at some point, people were like, people were talking about that when in design, when it came to design, they were started talking about like, oh, well, it has to be fair, right, for all the players, which like on some level, yes, but not to the degree where we just like make everything absolutely like where it doesn't really matter what you're doing, right? Where I don't know, I don't know, trying to codify skill in that like in like by using numbers and algorithms. I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me. I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah, no, yeah. That's sorry. I'm looking reading chat. Yeah, pug is. I was gonna say something too, but like, yeah, pug is pickup group because that's used outside of video games as well. It's a term that does not come from
Oh,
video games. So, yeah,
Oh, okay.
it comes from
Yeah.
organized sports, I believe. So,
Oh,
oh,
okay. A
okay.
so
pickup
Huh.
group or pug is, oh yeah. Thank you for the dictionary definition. Is a group of random players that are grouped together via the matchmaking system, usually to do an instance request. Note that the word group refers to a literal meaning of a group, i.e., players having a common objective and is not limited to 5 words. Party raids with pickup players are still called pug, despite being right. Interesting.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes from
I
like uh not like obviously like not professional games, but like professional sports or anything like that. But it comes from like yeah, pug is a term that I believe comes from like sports.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of those terms that I heard in MMOs and then nobody ever actually like said all three of the words out together. And so this is me at 28
Ooh.
now learning that it's
Yeah.
that PUG stands for pickup group
Hmm.
and not public group, because the way that my brain was like, oh, it's a public, like it's a public lobby and it's a group of
Oh,
people, PUG.
interesting. So it all actually comes from music, not sport. That's really
Oh,
interesting.
that's even cool.
That's really cool.
Welcome to Ramblemancy, where we're being schooled by chat.
Hell yeah.
I pick up. I mean that in the best way. My
Well, like
favorite
no,
thing is teachers
legitimately.
learning new things.
Remember, like early days of Ramblemancy when we felt compelled to explain to people that we were not experts on any of the topics we were covering, and now we just sort of let that be obvious.
We are all of us unqualified, not experts. Like I was going to say unqualified experts, but not really. A pickup group is a group of professional musicians, which may be session musicians who are hired to play for a limited time period, ranging from a single concert or sound recording session to several weeks of shows before disbanding. Pickup groups are formed to play in pit orchestras, musical theater performances, operas, operettas, accompany jazz singers, instrumental soloists, and act as temporary backup band for pop singer for a tour, as well as pickup groups are interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've actually like kind of I've experienced like the edge of that when I was playing gigs around town as a high school like violinist, like 17, 18, 19 years old. I would base somebody would be like, we need a violist and a couple other people for a wedding, and they'd like hire a random violist and then me and then somebody else, and then like hand us Paco Bell's Canon in D for the 5th time this summer. And I just watch the cellist's face fall, and then like the two violinists look over at them and like, I'm so sorry. Like, nope, it's fine. I'm getting paid. Sure would be interesting if I got to play more than 6 notes.
God, what was the? I don't think you were there with me, so I don't know if you would know, but a friend of ours who like played was frequently he was one of the like 2 or 3 rotating pianists who like played in the like fancy brunch room at our college. There was a song that he was playing, and it was very classical style that he was playing. After a while I was like, is that what I think it is? And I cannot remember what song it was, but it was something ridiculous. But he was playing it in like a very classical style, and I cannot remember what it was.
Like he'd basically like jazzed up just like the Super Mario theme or something.
Yeah, it was something kind of like that, but it wasn't the Super Mario theme. It wasn't even like I don't even know if it was from video games. It was something though, and it was
Pop song maybe.
I don't think it wasn't a pop song. It was from like something super nerdy and but like I don't know. It was just something, but he was this in this very like classical style that he was doing it, like in the like like what you would expect to hear at a fancy brunch. But then I was listening to, I was like, is that what I think it is? It was so funny to me because it was on a particular day where there were a lot of the like school's board were there, and so.
Oh, that's so perfect.
Oh.
That's so perfect. In reference to John Public Group versus Pickup Group, it's a pickup group, hashtag and John.
Oh gosh.
Bringing it around.
Hashtag
Japan, just putting out there, Lego Callisto 6 would be a banger game. Lego anything would be a banger game. Change my mind.
God. Imagine Lego Infinite Horizon as a
yes.
Okay.
Oh my god, the big Lego conduits.
Oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
I completely forgot about Lego games.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Incredible. That would be amazing. Now, I spaced out for a second, so I was just like running in my mind of like what that would look like.
Oh, I want to build the Awakener now.
Yeah, right?
Oh my god, I'm imagining
I want an
Sulan,
Awakener
like
set.
Lego Sulan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lego Sulan. Oh,
Incredible.
just thinking, Lego Kranai.
Ooh.
Oh man, like the rest of the game, is the way it is, and then you get to Lego Kranai, and all of a sudden it's just all in black and white except for reds. But it's still a Lego game.
It's just at that point, it's just Lego Sin City. Like that's what I'm playing right there.
Exactly. That's just Sin City exactly was what came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lego Noir.
Lego Noir.
That is the funniest thing that I've heard as far like funniest genre name ever.
Ooh, it's so cool too.
Lego Games found a formula 10 plus years ago, and goddamn if it still doesn't work just as well as back then. Yeah, Nico, it really does. Like they discovered that formula like in the late 2000s, like early 2010s, and the game functionally has not changed since then, and there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I spent hours of my life playing Lego Star Wars with my younger brother, just fucking hours. We would play like Halo 2 or Halo 3 or Halo Reach or whatever the Halo of the month was. Like legendary, all skulls on, as difficult as it could get, co-op, like the bullshit where you have fucking no ammo, everything one shots you, and all of that stuff. And then we would wind down after we had like either finished the game or finished whatever like milestone we wanted to reach that night. We would wind down by just like fucking playing Lego Star Wars for 2 hours. Palate cleanser.
Yeah. You know, I never
Sorry, Amethyst. Yes, we said noir. No, it is not that noir. I know the one that you are thinking of.
I never got into Halo, and I was thinking about this recently, and the reason I never got into Halo was other people who played Halo. Um,
Yeah, fair.
cause Freeman knows exactly what I'm about to say, but like we had a friend in high school whose favorite
Yeah.
thing to do for some reason was like have us all play on like one of those like PvP sort of match things. But then he was someone who
Hmm.
owned the game and put so many hours into it. And for some
Mhm.
reason, his favorite thing to do was to put us in there and then know exactly how to like know the map layout, know exactly how to get to where the sniper rifle is, and then insta kill every single person on the map. Like practically as soon as they spawned, as soon as they poked their head around any corner, basically, and it was just, I'm like,
Like the
Headshot.
intimacy with which, like,
Time.
they know where all of the spawn locations are. And so they
mm-hmm,
just choose as the location that's advantageous to, like, okay, so they just died over here. I know these people, I can hear them fighting over there. So I'm going to peek around this corner because he's going to respawn over there and I'll headshot him again. It'll be great. Except don't do that when you're playing LAN with your friends, you dick.
yeah, yeah, don't fucking do that.
You want to do that in online multiplayer? Fine. Like,
It's
but
just it was so annoying because, and that's like the only like I remember I could have gotten
Mhm.
into Halo because a friend of mine when I first played Halo, we played like the campaign in co-op, and that was super fun. Like I enjoyed that. I thought that was cool. Um, but from that moment on, that was the only time I'd ever done that, because from that moment on through my teens, the only thing anyone ever wanted to do when playing Halo was those kinds of matches, and I just hated it. I hated it because like the people who wanted to do that were always the people who were better than everybody else, and I'm like, I am getting nothing out of this except frustrated. So
yeah, see, like, I would be down to play like 4-player Halo co-op because that meant that
mhm.
people wouldn't have to play against me because I knew I was that guy that was significantly better than most people at the
Yeah,
LAN party. And then when we did play, I would either handicap my health by 25 or 50%, or I just wouldn't pick up power weapons. Like I
Yeah.
knew where they were, I knew how to find them, I knew how to kill people with them. I wouldn't pick them up.
yeah.
Like I would just play for silly fun because that's what you're
Hmm.
doing at a LAN party with your friends. You're there to fucking goof around. You're not there to like clown on people for MMR.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Ugh.
so like
Isn't it so fun how I'm not letting you play this game because of how good I am at it? Isn't that fun?
I'm. Don't you love that I'm winning all the time, every time these days? Today.
everyone validate me for how good I am at Halo multiplayer.
Anyway,
uh,
We all
but
yeah.
so
sometimes PvP is a lot of fun, though.
it absolutely
It
is
can be.
when everybody playing is
Whenever. Yeah.
like either roughly the same skill level, or there's like
Yeah.
nothing there's
Exactly.
or when like some of it is like, even if there is one person who's better than everybody and they just keep killing everyone, as long as they're not doing it in that very smug kind of like see,
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing, then it's still fun
Exactly.
because it's chaotic, it's enjoyable, right? But if all you're doing is trying to like show up your friends who literally there's no reason that they should be anywhere close to your match, or or you just want somebody to validate all of the like countless hours that you've put into the game, um by somehow doing the mental gymnastics here by frustrating them into it, I guess, I don't know, then
Mhm.
there is only one thing that we're going to say here, and that is fuck those people. That's all I'm saying. Absolutely fuck them. uh
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
friend that was so good at a specific Call of Duty and every map that at the start they could look at my side of the screen and grenade launcher me game over. We didn't play that game often. Yeah, the people who got so good at Call of Duty that they knew like the exact moment at which to pull a grenade and look up at the sky and hold the angle and throw it such that it would hit a sprinting player running out of their spawn. Anytime I was put in a lobby against those people, I was like, all right, so I'm just going to leave and I'm going to wait like 30 seconds and then I will queue again.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I'm not playing against you. You were too good at this video game. I don't want to play against you.
Yeah.
You see so much of that in Rainbow Six. It's
Oh yeah, I bet.
It's the same. It's the same, but like on steroids or something. Must be.
Anytime I get into an Apex Legends lobby and I see someone on the opposing like trio that I'm fighting like bouncing off of the walls and then like spinning out of the top of it and then headshotting me on their way past, I'm like, honestly, you got it. Let's go next. You got it, buddy. I'm not gonna try and fight this one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run the other way and hope somebody else kills you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I understand that we have gone from Here's the thing. I realize that there is a particular interpretation of the things that we were talking about that could paint me in particular as being a fucking hypocrite and sore loser. However, so I'm going to call attention to it. So that is the fact that like games like Halo, like multiplayer, right? Those are absolutely skill based and not numbers loot based, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I realize that what I am doing here is I am simultaneously criticizing the numbers loot based progression in an advancement in multiplayer and also criticizing the like more skill based thing. However, the difference is that you can win in one. It is possible. It's not just like, hey, if you haven't poured thousands of hours into this, then you're just straight up not gonna win until you do. And yeah. Plus, also what I'm talking about more is an attitude of a person who is playing a game rather than like the game itself. The attitude I am referring to is that of somebody smugly preventing you from playing the game by being way better at it than you are.
Yeah, Amethyst makes a good point. We're talking about sportsmanship here more than we're talking about game mechanics.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And it's super shitty. It doesn't feel great for anyone involved.
Yeah.
To have that, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
All in agreement? Settled.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons why, like, one of the same things that I love about like Star Wars Squadrons, right, is because even the very best players still will do something where they just die because they ran into a surface. Like, it happens. They like are trying to dodge, stop paying attention for 2 seconds, and slam into a surface and blow up. It happens to even the best players, which is why I appreciate it, because no one. It's the great equalizer. Great equalizer from the freshest of noobs to the like most like the players with the like highest logged hours in the game. No one can avoid accidentally slamming into the side of a building eventually.
It will happen to all of you at some point.
Orange, hello, welcome on in.
Good to see you, Orange.
Yeah.
He'll fail you on this fine. I don't know where that accent came from. We're abandoning that bit. But how are you?
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of. Anyway, the point of that whole thing was that I bounced off the Halo games because some people were assholes and did not allow me to actually play the game. So.
Yeah, I had a great time with them because I was introduced to them, I think, with Halo 2. Which is, I think, one of the better entries in the Halo series, in my opinion. Not totally just because it was the first one that I played and it made the biggest impression on me because of that. But like, Halo 2, great game. But I was in middle school and all of my friends played Halo 2, and our like whole shtick for a couple of years was that when somebody had a birthday, we all went over to their house. Somebody carted over an extra Xbox, another TV, a couple of network cables, and a router, and and then we just wouldn't sleep that night and would just play increasingly chaotic and weird like variations of Team Slayer and like team death like and just like solo death matches on every map in the game, or like the classic Banshees only dog fighting. Like two people would get in Banshees and fly around, and then they'd respawn, and two more people would get in.
My favorite thing that ever happened in like a multiplayer like versus in Halo was when one of the person who was like setting it up increased all the movement speed to some ridiculous degree.
Oh yeah.
And also turned gravity way the fuck down. And so
Yep.
Well, like Nico earlier said, 8v8 Griff ball, low gravity. Let's go.
That's right.
From like Halo.
Yep.
Yeah, like Halo 3.
Yep.
Everybody has gravity hammers. You can only die from being hit from behind.
Yes,
There's
yes,
10%
yes.
gravity and 300% move speed.
Genuinely one of my favorite things that ever happened in a Halo game, because it was just so chaotic. Nobody knew what was happening. It was amazing.
I'm flashing back to memories of doing
that. Yep.
You try to kill somebody and you just send 3 people fucking flying. Like, I got him this time, and nope, you're on the other side of the map now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you basically, Amethyst, you basically just played pinball with each other until somebody killed someone by accident.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. God, that's a callback. Hot potato was our go-to land mode back then. Yeah.
Man, let's see. I'm trying to think of like other. I'm digging around in the tank to see if I've got any more video game related hot takes to toss around.
Yeah.
Any like. What? Yeah. Any? You know what? Fuck it. We'll open it to the floor. Anybody have any like spicy video game takes?
Yeah. What's I suppose, yeah. Open also to chat as well.
Yeah. That's
You got a video game hot take.
Yeah.
Like,
what's your spiciest video game opinion?
What's my spiciest video game opinion? I mean, this one's spicy among gamers, but it's not really spicy among the circles that we run in. But its games should have an easy mode.
Yeah.
Games should have an easy mode,
especially if it has a story. If it has a story, like fucking easy mode. Some people play the games for the goddamn story. Anyway.
Yeah.
Video game
Hades.
Hot take. Rarity
Such an excellent example.
Nico says rarity-based loot is bad game design. That's fair. I can get on board with that.
Yeah. We're talking like the kind of thing where there's like a 0.03% drop chance from this one boss in the game. So you have to grind the boss like 600 times to get this one piece of armor that is critical to your build, or you have to go and farm up a gajillion gold to buy the piece of armor that you need to play. Yeah.
Yes, there we go, Amethyst. Thank you. Video games should have an easy mode, and there should be no shame in playing on it.
Your barrier to playing Hades should not, like, I love that the people who made Hades pretty much just said your barrier to playing our game should not be that you're bad at ARPGs.
Yeah, I also love that even Ghost Runner, which isn't the whole point of Ghost Runner is to be like a hardcore 3D action platformer, right? That's the whole point of Ghost Runner. Even they were like, hey, guess what? Here is a mode for like accessibility reasons that's like better, that's like easier for in a lot of ways. It scales back on the hardcore sort of shit. You have extra lives. You have like, it just does a whole bunch of shit to make that game a lot more accessible because, you know, it needs it.
Some people are going to have like trouble like with the with like the response time or different aspects of that game, so they make it more accessible.
Nico's talking about this rare longsword deals 0.3 more damage than my common longsword kind of game design. Yeah.
Yes, longsword, blue longsword, dark blue longsword.
Randomized stats based on rarity kind of thing. Gotcha.
Oh, so like Diablo, Path of Exile, like loot generation.
Yep.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Path of Exile, and at this point, I'm very tired of those crafting systems.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun to spend. It's not fun, in my opinion, to grind up a whole bunch of currency, spend 10, 15, 20 hours like grinding up the materials to make an item, and then trying to make an item, and at the end you have a really shitty stick that gives you +2 mana gained on kill and 50% increased stun duration. Um, and none of the things that you wanted. That is not very fun. So I'm going to agree with you, Nico.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to agree.
I,
Let me
you
play
know
the thing
what?
that I want to
You know
play.
what? You know what? Um, I am going to say here's one of mine, but I think grinding as a gameplay mechanic is bad. That's it. That's what it's not fun. And yeah, I mean, I think there are ways that you can make it fun and interesting, but I still think that at its core, it's a bad idea. It's a bad concept. That's all I gotta say. Like, why would you make a game that, like, most people just would actually get bored of before they reach most of it? Anyway, yeah. Like, MMOs with their whole end game is when the real game starts philosophy of design. What is that? What is that? So you spend all these countless hours grinding up to max level so that you can access end game content, and that's where the game starts? Then what the hell was the rest of this shit? Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that's grinding is bad.
Yeah. I don't particularly enjoy it when end game content is gated behind grinding. Like this is one of the things that actually drove me off of Path of Exile. It's
Mm-hmm.
because it was like, well, I want to take my character and I want to throw it against like the most difficult boss fights in the game. I want to throw it against the most difficult wild like maps at end game. But in order to do that, I have to grind the Atlas of Worlds for like 50 hours.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like,
So,
why would you in your if you absolutely must incorporate grinding into your game design, then why would you make it in such a way where you have to do the same exact time consuming thing over and over and over again? That is what some people's depictions of hell look like. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I'm saying
Yeah.
that is literally what some people have like described hell as in their like various fictions of that kind of thing. It's just an endless loop of the same exact thing over and over again. Like, anyway.
Orange, I do want you to know that I have pushed characters from like 80 is the level cap in Guild Wars 2. I have actually leveled characters to 80 just by crafting. Because I would make a character who would just like, I just need someone with a leatherworking profession, and they'd be level 1, and then as it turns out, crafting gets you XP in that game. So
So here's two things. One, when Elder Scrolls Online was in um closed beta, uh you could theoretically level up based on the XP gains. You could level up by doing nothing but crafting and exploring, and you do exploring to find materials for crafting. And that was legitimately a thing that you could do in that game. You can't now. That's not
Yeah.
possible now. The
yeah.
second thing is that in Star Wars Galaxies, there was a class called Entertainer, where the way you level up super fast with Entertainer, because the way that you level up is just by like being in cantinas and playing music or dancing or whatever, and that's how you gained XP based on a certain amount of time doing that kind of thing, and you leveled up super fucking fast. And then entertainers were great because they were a support class for raids and shit like that, and it was easy to find them They were a dime a dozen because it was so easy to level up support classes, like effective support characters. It was so good. It was yeah, and it was just incredible that you could just anyway yeah.
Here's my video game hot take. If you want people to play support in your MMO, maybe make playing support fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
Also, don't make me
Okay.
require a PhD to play support.
Ugh, like playing Engineer in fucking Guild Wars 2.
Fuck Chronomancer tanking. Like you wanted a chrono tank and in like in fractals or raids. God, you better have a PhD in that raid boss. Like playing DPS, all you have to do is show up and push your buttons in like in a very simple order. But like,
I always
don't
say,
stand in the red
I
circles.
always say that in MMOs, I always make DPS characters because I'm not smart enough to play anything else.
Healers back here worrying about like aggro and all of this other shit, and then like tanks have to like have all of the bosses patterns memorized. DPS, I'm like 4 button go
DPS over here like hey, big number.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe I can hit 7 digits this time.
Y'all lost me so hard. Oh man, you lost me.
Yeah.
Woo.
Freeman, don't play MMOs.
Don't do it.
I won't. I don't have any hot takes either. I don't. I haven't played nearly enough video games, but I will say for games in general, just take your Monopoly game and burn it.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Burn it.
If somebody says I would like to play Monopoly tonight, say no, I would like to continue being friends.
And like I'm just saying it's not even about like what happens in the game. I just like if you tell me that you want to play Monopoly with me, I'm going to assume that you are very boring and I want nothing to do with it.
There's so many board games out there. There's so many board games out there. We are, and this is a thing that is just kind of categorically true. We live in a golden age of tabletop games, tabletop role playing games, and just board games and tabletop games in general. Like there is just an infinite number of things that you could pick up for game night, and it could be at a box in Target. It could be off of like itch.io. Like there are so many places that you could go and find like a one page role playing game or a board game from your local game store. Like so many options. Play something other than Monopoly.
I would prefer to play solitaire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
3-person solitaire. Actually, 4-person solitaire. At least 5-person solitaire would be great. Yeah, make it uneven. That's perfect.
There you go.
5-person solitaire.
A
lot of French decks.
I'm just saying, like, it's board games. Like it's spelled BOARD, not BORED. So anyway,
even when we didn't live in board game in an era of board game renaissance, Monopoly was the one game that always gathered dust on in my closet. Like play Yahtzee, would play Clue, like before all of those things, or fucking Guess Who or Submarine. Like
Nico says, one last game design hot take: working towards your power-ups is far more rewarding than getting them handed to you. I think that is true up to a point. Like it's so easy to tip over from that into grinding again, but like I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I know what you're saying because I agree with you. But yes. Like that's one of the reasons I like RPGs so much is because it's like you especially RPGs where the whole upgrade tree is visible to you the whole time, even when you haven't unlocked abilities. It pisses me off to no end when an RPG is like, hey, look at these extensive upgrade trees that you can't fucking see because you haven't, put anything in there, so you can't build towards anything. That makes me so angry. I'm like, what is the point of an upgrade tree if I cannot plan ahead? Anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the end of our show now.
Yeah, it's that time of night. The time of night where we say it's the end of the show and go for 10 minutes more while we figure out how to end this fucking show, because after 3 years we still haven't figured it out.
3 years?
It's
Yeah.
almost 4, honestly.
Yeah, actually.
It'll be 4 in February.
Yeah.
Well, of
sometimes I think about that and it's just fucking
For
staggering.
Ramblemancy, yes.
Yeah, 4 years of Ramblemancy.
That's right.
Why are you still watching this? Why are people still watching this?
What are you doing?
What are you doing here?
What are you doing with your life?
We appreciate all of you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
definitely.
Ramble fam.
Oh yeah, that's right. We haven't said that in a while.
Next week we're just gonna next week for our pre-roll captions, we're all just gonna say "Sup, Ramble fam." Off.
Not that idea.
Yeah, next time.
Next time.
All right. Well, everybody.
Au
Ladies and
revoir.
gentlemen, the weekend.
Oh, goddamn.
The best novelty Twitter account that
Like
exists.
full circle.
Uh,
That was us before Ramblemancy, and
as is the beginning, so is the end.
so it was prophesied in the scrolls. This is empty. I can't take a drink now. That's unfortunate. Wait, no.
What?
No, this is empty too. Fuck.
What? Both?
I am so hydrated and yet I thirst.
all
And
right.
yet,
All right. That's the second time I've had a water-related mishap on this stream, so I think it's time to go. It's time to go.
It's time to stop.
well,
So tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific time, right here on this very channel, the 4th and final episode of Republic City Rumble will be here. Our collaborative 4-part actual play with queue times finishing up tomorrow. Be there. There will, of course, also be Infinite Horizon on this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We will be picking up exactly where we left off. And, of course, this very show, Ramblemancy, a week from today, on Friday. Stay tuned for announcements there. We will probably be having a guest. We just have to double confirm, but we'll do that and announce that on Wednesday for Infinite Horizon, or tomorrow, depending on how quickly it happens. You know what? We'll figure it out. You'll know when you know.
You'll know when you know. You know?
Be there or be rectangle. Be there or be trapezoid.
Excellent place. If you want to make sure you're on top of that announcement, is in the Discord. Which cord, you ask? Discord. Discord.
the one in the
one in the chat.
In the comments. Yeah. I don't have a cord near me right now. I'm cordless. But this one is the one you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the second time on stream today that I have made Lucas just visibly disappointed in me. So it really is time for us to go.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a great way to support us, which is you can also hit up on the tip jar down here. And thank you, Asia Fit, for that nice number. It's a good way to support us. You can pay the same amount. We get all of it, and Twitch gets none of it.
Yeah.
Take that, Sheriff. So thank you for that. I'm not going to quite bid you adieu, because we also have a patron that you can get on to. Didn't quite rhyme, but I'll get there one of these days, boys. Patron is a good way to support us. You can get our monthly media recommendation list, which is coming up soon this week, I think, or maybe sometime. It's coming up. We also have our every other week tabletop tool chest, which is like little kernels of story that we feed you, and then you take and turn into something grander in your own story and your game. that we just had Halloween. Well, it's the Halloween month, as I like to say. So we had the spooky vibe this month, and we had I believe it was spooky adventure hooks last
Written
week.
mostly by Freeman.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting. So that's a great way to support us on Patreon. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also hit up that coffee, and I always want to say Ko-Fi. I
I've
know you
heard
guys don't
people
love it.
like coffee, Ko-fi, Ko-fi.
Oh yeah, Kofi. I hear Kofi too.
Yeah. You know, it's whatever. At this point, it's whatever you want it to be.
One dumbass
Chill.
said Kofifi. I don't know. Like,
Chill Ko-Fi beats to study and relax to.
I should leave.
This is quickly falling apart.
As soon as I open my mouth.
This is
Anyway,
yeah.
those are the only other like ending stream announcements I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
Because
think
the
that's
Discord is usually the one
about right.
we end with because it's good.
Mhm. Yep.
So, yeah. And for patrons, a thing that we don't mention a lot because it's not usually that relevant, but it will be relevant soon, is you often also get advanced knowledge of things that are coming down the line at Rule of Lore. I'm mentioning it now because it's going to be relevant soon. So if you want to know something and you want to know it before everyone else, now's a great time to get on the Patreon. So
You know it's an important announcement because the eyebrows are going.
okay, it's time to go.
Yes, truly.
it's time to go. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out with us. We will be back here tomorrow night. Hopefully, we will see you for Republic City Rumble. But if not, we will see you the next time you decide to come roll with us. Good night and good zone, everyone.